But there's another factor. If you listen to the Arab narrative, they would say that the Jews expelled the Arabs. Is that true? To some degree, yes. To some degree, yes, it's true. Because what would happen is this. The Jewish army, now called the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, would come upon a village or a city, whatever, and they were clearly going to defeat it, and so they would offer terms of peace. And so the Jews would say, you're welcome to live in peace, you're welcome to live and be an Israeli citizen, we'll give you a passport, you're welcome. If the Arabs say, we reject and we will fight, see, then the Jewish response would be, we cannot have this within our borders. We cannot have enemies within our borders. And they would repel them. And they would march them out and send them to the refugee camps, because we cannot have enemies in our borders. So they offered them terms. If you'll be at peace, you'll be our citizen. You'll be with us. If you want to be our enemy, you will be expelled. So did they expel? They did. And they would say, and their answer would be, but refugees are part of every war. And then they would say, and let's not forget the fact that those Arab nations expelled the Jews. Iraq, Syria, Yemen, Saudi Arabia, many of them expelled the Jews, and they had no homeland. And so Israel took them in. Hundreds of thousands, I forgot the number, maybe 500,000 from Iraq were absorbed and taken into Israel. And so Israel, that would be their counter to the narrative, but there were many Jewish refugees also, but we didn't keep them in camps. Now, by the way, were those Jewish refugees ever in camps? Yes, they were, because there were not homes. And so they put them in camps. But as fast as they could, they brought them into a place to make a homeland. And then they had whole organizations for teaching them Hebrew, giving them jobs, and it was a very, very well organized organization. But that's where the modern Palestinian problem comes from. And so these refugees, Arab refugees, lived in these camps in various places, as I mentioned, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, some in Egypt, Gaza, etc. And they were kept in those camps. They could have been absorbed. Only Jordan gives passports to Palestinian Arabs and welcomes them. If you want to become a Jordanian, you're welcome. But if they stay in the camp, then they get monies from the United Nations. And in fact, today, there is a relief organization that's funded by the United Nations and organized and led by the United Nations that will give funding, medical, schooling, etc., to all Palestinian refugees in those camps. So that's the history of how we got to this place today of these Palestinian refugees. And many would submit that there are many of the Arab nations who don't want these camps to be disbanded, because this is a source of agitation and standing against Israel, because if we can continue to have a conflict, then we can promote anti-Semitism in the nations. And because many have now aligned themselves with the Palestinian problem, the Palestinian plight, and even accusing Israel of apartheid, trying to submit that they're similar to South Africa.